Sydney was like, "Is this going to take very long?" And I was like, "Well, Freddie did only serve for 18 months, so I don't."
That's funny.
So when I went up to Rome one time to do paperwork, it sounded like everyone was speaking English. It was so clear to my brain.
Like, dude, did they just learn about the Roman Empire? That's what I would do if I was like, if I was teaching.
That's what I'm doing here.
And there was like this cross that had like a little sliver of the original cross in it. And he was like, look at that's so cool. And I was like, no way, you know? And so stuff like that was just really special to me to like be a part and be like welcomed into that religion and that culture.
Make sure when you you start it when I say welcome back to the podcast.
Unless there's something germane to the conversation. I'm editing out, obviously, the first part.
Sydney was like, "Is this going to take very long?" And I was like, "Well, Freddie did only serve for 18 months, so I don't."
That's funny.
But I take it you won't be editing that part out.
No. Yeah, there we go. We're keeping that in. So introduce us, Roy.
All right. Well, welcome back to He's the GOAT podcast. Special shout out to our number one fan in the world, Exmosive Smith, on TikTok. He is a big fan. We love him. Anyways, today we are going to be kicking it off with my little brother, Ket.
What's up?
And then our little sister, Freddie.
Say something.
Hello.
Whoa, dude, wait. Say that again. It didn't hop on your face.
Hello.
I think it hopped on my face.
Yeah, the cutest guest we've had thus far.
Aww.
Definitely.
Oh, stop.
Definitely. Let's see here. So we actually had Freddie's husband on the other one time, Jacob. And we were like, well, now we got to get Freddie on, a little tag team here with them. But Freddie served her mission in Italy. And she served.
Should have her introduce all this information.
Well, I'm gonna turn it over. I'm just okay. Anyways, Freddie. All right, no, you got it, Freddie. Tell us where you served, the name of the mission, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. I served in the Italy-Rome mission, which is Italy from Rome down, including the island of Sardinia, the island of Sicily, and then Malta, which is a separate country that's like under Sicily. So
yeah, not confused. I don't know if they had this drink in your guys' mission, but they would have like like barley beverages that weren't alcoholic, and they were called maltas, and they were disgusting.
Well, do you know what a malt is?
No. Well, I mean,
ice cream. A malt, I think, is like literally like ground up barley that they put in ice cream or milk so that you can like. I think it's barley. I could be wrong. Anyways, wait, okay. I didn't know this, and this is embarrassing, but Malta is a different country. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it's a different country. The native language is Maltese, but no one speaks it very much anymore. So if you go down there, if you get transferred down there, then you pretty much speak English.
Crazy.
Jeez. So, you never went there. You never went there, right?
No, I didn't ever go there.
So where did you spend the most time on the boot?
All right, I was in Sicily for 9 months, which isn't on the boot. It's one of the islands. I was there for 9 months.
Don't mess with those Sicilians when death is on the line.
No, definitely don't do that. And well, the funny thing about Sicily is they have a super strong dialect, but that's where I learned Italian. So when I went up to Rome one time to do paperwork, it sounded like everyone was speaking English. It was so clear to my brain. I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually what Italian sounds like.
That's funny.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. So what do you mean, like, is there any way you can do a sample, like 2 words that are different specifically, or is it more just like they have a little twang?
Well, it's like a whole language. Like the dialect is Siciliano, which is a different language pretty much.
Oh.
But so their accent is just weird, but I couldn't replicate it at all. They speak Italian but they'll throw in Sicilian slang and like it's just way slurry. It's just like harder to understand. But I didn't know that until I left. I was like, whoa.
Maybe it's the equivalent of like Dominican Spanish,
Spanish, maybe even Portuguese, probably.
maybe.
Yeah.
Was
That's
it
crazy.
was it that different, would you say? Like a whole different language type deal?
The dialect itself is a whole like never would I learn that. Like I could never comprehend what they were saying when they would speak in dialect. But the Italian is pretty much the same. It's just a different accent and different. It's like England English compared to American English. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Dude, what would I give to go to school in Italy, to be honest? Like, dude, do they just learn about the Roman Empire? That's what I would do if I was like, if I was teaching
That's what I'm doing here.
that. Well, I mean, I don't, if I was in Italy and I was like, how do we motivate our children in the school system? I would teach them about the Roman Empire
Yeah.
and be like, you guys have royal blood in your veins. This
This is
is
in your
Rome.
blood.
Yeah,
No,
the
their
Hey,
college is free over there, which the college in
ah,
healthcare is free, and everyone is like, freaks out about it. But in order to get into a program, you don't pay for it. You just have to test into it.
Ooh.
So you have to be the best of the best to even get into the program you want to get into. So it's like you know, pros and cons.
okay, getting into the culture then. If we're gonna talk about what were some things that I don't know. I mean, I know you. Okay, this is the hard thing about interviewing one of our siblings about their missions is we talk about our missions all the time. We always talk about it.
Yeah.
So I do know a lot of these answers, but for viewers and stuff, like, what is the difference when you're in Italy? Obviously, you don't feel like you're in America. You know, you can obviously feel you're in Italy. So, what is the biggest difference that you like recognize right off the bat?
Hmm. Well, I think this is gonna sound weird, but right off the bat, it was like the plants. And I mean like getting into like coming from the airport, getting into the car, driving into like our mission home. I was looking around and I was just like, wow, this is weird. It wasn't like beautiful, but it wasn't anything crazy. It just looked different. Like the plants were different, the trees were different, and I was like, holy crap. And it's not the picture perfect Italy that you see in the pictures or in the movies. Those parts of Italy are tourist areas. So they don't like when I went back to Italy, we went to some of those cities and I was just like, this is not really actually Italy. So
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I mean, we
Yeah,
drove into the mission
that's a
home.
lot different than Cat's Mission, where it just looks beautiful everywhere. It actually is a tourist location everywhere.
Well, the
But
nature spots like on the coast and everything, like the water is beautiful, but the cities themselves are not, I wouldn't say. I mean, they have their own charm, but it's much dirtier than you'd expect.
and you wait, you were there, Roy, in Curacao, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I was in Curacao with
I
you.
was like,
Yeah.
because there is an obvious like facade
Line.
where the boats come in, and literally 4 or 5 blocks into the island, it's like, oh, there's a naked guy like running around. Ooh, there's like, which is
Well,
probably the same thing with Italy is like
Yeah.
this guy this guy needs medical help and like stuff like that. I don't know.
that I
Yeah.
think that's got to be the biggest culture shock for any person going on a mission, even if you're coming like to America. Our perception, like my perception of Guatemala growing up was just like these cute little towns where everyone's just nice and they have these cute little like adobe or bamboo homes and it's everything's just cutesy and fun. And there's tourists every once in a while, and then there's these ruins that are hidden everywhere. And to be completely honest, like that's the Guatemala I did grow to love, like the little towns and stuff. But then it's like it was like there's a lot of stray dogs and a lot of like like fecal matter.
Crime.
Stray dogs, dude. Why is that a constant, bro?
Are there
Holy.
stray dogs in Italy, Freddie?
Um, maybe, but there's mostly cats. Like there are cats, everywhere, everywhere. And I wondered that for the first couple months. I'm like, wow, why are these cats everywhere? And then I realized every town has a few cat ladies that go around to the same spots. And I'm not even joking. They'll go on a little walk at night, go to the same spots, put out their cat food and whatever. One time we tried to talk to one of these
Wait,
ladies
wait, wait,
about the
wait, wait.
cats.
They
Oh,
didn't own cats. They just
no.
put out cat food.
Yeah. Yeah. They didn't own the cats. These cats were just living on the street and they brought food to them. And we tried to talk to we tried to talk to one of these ladies one time and just about the cats. Like we weren't like changing the subject to the gospel or anything, but she just looks at us and she goes, "Sorry, girls, I'm busy." And we were like, "Oh, sorry. Didn't know your cat feeding was that important. Sheesh." It was funny. But I'm talking a lot. Like one of our apartments had like probably like 15 cats just like around in that area.
Yeah.
You
And I mean
have
like on
like,
that street.
aren't you allergic to cats?
Yeah.
So
Rip.
how did that go? Yeah.
It was fun because they weren't ever inside. Well, sometimes they were, but like they never bothered me because I wasn't by them. I just saw them all the time.
Yeah, I don't. Stray cats. It's gross.
Cats are, I mean, those dogs, the dogs got, well, I don't know. Were the dogs mean in Guatemala or were they just kind of there?
They were just there, bro. I don't think they even wanted to be there. They,
Yeah.
they like
Because
so it was
the dogs in Guyana, they were like nice. Like they weren't about to kill you. But the
yeah.
dogs in the islands, dude, bro, they wanted to eat you, bro.
Well,
I've
yeah, it's because they became wolves. They're a pack. They're
You
defending
ever get
territory.
like mangy, scary
Cats.
cats?
Me?
Yeah.
No, no, I wouldn't say so.
Mm.
They're pretty tame and afraid of people, except for their cat ladies.
So what are the people like in Italy? Like on a scale of well, I don't even know what scale to put it on. What are they like? Like I really don't.
On a scale of 1 to 10, like
Well, like any just the way we talk to people in America. Like I was talking to one of my buddies and I was like, every time a dude passes like another dude, there's like a this that you do, right? But if a dude does something cool, you go like this because it's like you're I don't know why you're just like oh that was good. And I did that in Guatemala one time. I like did this to some guy and he like and not everybody. It's not like that was like more like in the forest, but I think he was like trying to like what was I looking at and so I had to tell him hi and it was just weird. Now obviously that was like a little that's a little tiny thing, but are the people pretty friendly like you can talk to them or are they more to themselves or is it a lot like America?
Um, I feel like it's a lot like America in the sense that they are just people, you know what I mean? People are pretty universal. But I would say like in some of my areas, like there were some really nice people. Like I messaged a girl on Facebook to see if we can share a message with her, and she just invited us to her house, like right off the bat, which might sound like I shouldn't have gone because that's a bad idea. But she was so nice and she made us delicious food and she listened to like the first lesson. So but I don't know, yeah, some of them were rude, but some of them were really nice and super interested and like just like would give us they'd listen. Best case scenario, they'd listen to us and they'd be nice.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah.
That is awesome, especially as a missionary. Um, at least they're willing to listen to you because then it's just you walking around all day
Yeah.
and nobody likes that. That's just
Yeah.
boring. Um, do you have any well what made you decide to go on a mission? Now we all know there's a little patriarchal blessing background and we don't have to throw that on the internet, obviously. But like in the end, you're to vaguely put it, it's not like your patriarchal blessing said like you must serve a mission.
Yeah.
It was something that was kind of up to you. So what made you choose that? And did you ever not choose that? I really was never part of. I don't remember being around for a lot of your decision making on whether or not you're going to serve a mission. Was there ever a time when you were like, I don't want to, and then you change your mind? Like, how did that process go for you?
Yeah, I mean, when like growing up and especially after I got my patriarchal blessing, it was kind of just like, we'll see what happens. I didn't really think or worry about it because I was like, I don't know what's gonna happen, so why make that decision now? You know what I mean? Um, and then like around in high school, I was like, I don't think I want to go. That just doesn't really, but it still wasn't like I was like deciding. It was just kind of like, I don't think I feel it. I'm feeling it. Um, but then like my senior year, all my friends like getting their mission calls and like also like I could see them making changes in their lives and like becoming better people in small ways, you know. That was probably what it was more than anything. Which sounds profound, but it really was just like, you know what? I think I will go on a mission. And that was kind of what it was. And then, there's confirmation like that it's a good thing and that it's the good right choice afterwards. And so it just kind of felt good. And so I went with it.
And then you wanted to go so bad you were fasting and praying that they would lower the female age.
Yeah. Well, it was a mix of wanting to go so bad and not wanting to wait because I turned 18 in May, which is the year I graduated. So everyone was gone. Even my girlfriends were gone by October. And I wasn't going to turn 19 until the following May. So I was like, I would rather not wait that long, please.
No, you know why you had to stay?
I do know why. I know exactly why I had to stay. Because, A, I went through the temple in December and I didn't leave. And then, well, yeah, so I went to the temple in December. I didn't leave till August. So I had a lot of time to be in the temple. I was a temple worker for like 6 months, which was a huge blessing. And then I had this cool opportunity to go work in Nauvoo for about a month
Oh my
where,
gosh, I've never put that together. Cat's dancing right now. You can't even see him. I
No,
never put this together.
yo, Freddie has been my plug since day one and came in clutch.
Wait, okay, sorry. You have to continue the story, Freddie,
Anyway,
because I'm
yeah,
sure the people are
well,
like, why are they freaking out right now? Go ahead, Freddie.
yeah. Well, when we were in Nauvoo, it was just a whole bunch of girls that were all living up there in this house, working, we were working room service for like a hotel up there. And so it was just a bunch of girls and we would all try to like set each other up with whoever, from our lives because we didn't know each other before this. And so there was this girl named Leah, and I remember there was some people being like, "Oh, you should like I should set you up with my brother. I should set you up with my brother, this guy." And I was just like, "Brother too, but he's on a mission, but he's coming home in like a month, like no joke." And everyone was kind of like, "Meh." And then I went home from Nauvoo because Ket came home, and then I was like, "Ket, we should go back." And then we went back, and Ket met Leah and ended up winning and beating all of the other boys. So,
I'd like everyone to know as well, not that I wish this would have happened, but she did have a brother home. I was home and single, and she was like, I do have a brother, not him. There is another one though, that when he comes back, that's a good idea. But I
oh
was
my.
not even, Freddie was like, I only have one brother. He's on a mission. Oh
Oh,
man. So going and I want to kind of go back to what you're saying about how it wasn't that big of a deal. I think and now it's funny though because you're like it was kind of nonchalant. It wasn't really that big of a deal, but the choice actually ended up pushing you into meeting a girl that's going to become your brother's eternal companion. So huge deal, actually, like the big deal. And I remember I used to always watch The Other Side of Heaven, and that's what I wanted my mission to be, like this huge deal, like going to a faraway land that I don't know about and nobody knows about, and living on an island and making a boat that I have to ride across the ocean in and stuff like that, and having tsunamis and like I wanted to have such a crazy, crazy, crazy adventure. And then when my mission came around, it just was like normal. And looking back, like it is a big deal. Like if I retold the story as Kat and I do so well, I will romanticize the story and it because it's a big deal in my heart to me. But in the moment, like what you're saying, it was just kind of like, oh, like yeah,
I'm
I'm
doing
just going. I'm going on a mission.
Yeah.
Was there any culture shock involved in Italy, like that you felt a little out of not in your skin, kind of? I guess that's how culture shock felt to me, but
Well, I am glad that you bring that up about, things being a big deal, which I do want to mention because I think that is like super, super important to for people to know. You know what I mean? And that's one big thing that my mission taught me was like sometimes life doesn't feel like a big deal. And I learned on my mission that that was a trick of the adversary even to make you feel like it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? And so it's like a catch, I don't know, because it's sometimes doesn't feel like a big deal, but you also don't want Satan to convince you that it's not a big deal, if that makes sense. But because going on my mission, I remember hearing all of your two's stories about your missions, and I had the same experience that you were saying, Roy, that I was expecting something. And then when I got there, there's times when you're like, am I doing this right? Because this doesn't feel like a big deal. You know what I mean?
You're like, it's kind of a slow day today. I didn't know I'd have
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, me and my companion are just sitting here on our cell phones, like doing comp study. Like this isn't really what I was expecting. Watching a video from Gospel Library, like this isn't really how I pictured it would go.
yeah,
But
watching the district during your training.
dude,
yeah.
well, I do remember and listen, if anyone ever hears me talk about my mission, it's gonna be I'm only gonna tell you the big stuff, obviously, as with anybody, and even the little stuff. I have found a way to romanticize
The
my
little stuff
mission
is gonna be big when I talk
is
about
g- yeah, it's gonna I found a way to romanticize my mission where I'm not even stretching the truth. I'm just maybe overemphasizing how beautiful the mountains were behind a certain backdrop of a scene or something. I don't know. But I do remember one time I was walking through the jungle, which see, okay, it's already big. It's already like
it.
a
And the monkeys were swinging around, and the parrots were flying above my head.
but I remember I was walking through the jungle, it was hot, I was sweating, and I heard like the coo of a bird. And I just remembered like being in my grandma's backyard and hearing the doves just like coo, coo. And I look over at my companion and he's looking straight down at his feet, just like kicking a rock. And I was like, this would be a very boring Saturday. Like just in America, in Guatemala. So there is that where the you have to combat that a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Because and the way that I combated it, because I was in the promised land, was I just got to teach and baptize a lot of people. Well, I was very lucky. The Guatemalan people are ready to be baptized. It's just what they love to do. They're very religious. But in Italy, that is not the case. Like where you're just meeting and baptizing everybody. I know that they're doing like a lot better now than they were like at the beginning of your mission of finding people and baptizing them. But how did you cope with the mundane, maybe more gray feelings of the mission? Not even like
Yeah.
depression, just like a Wednesday, you know? Like, how did you
Yeah.
do that?
Well, my Wednesday was P Day, so
I
just
forgot
kidding.
about that.
Okay. But I like I just feel like, you have those feelings of like mundane times, right? And the adversary is going to tell you like this is not a big deal. Like you are just a normal person, everyone around you normal, nothing special is going to happen today. But when you consciously decide to make it a worthwhile, fun, cool, special experience, that's when it becomes more meaningful, you know what I mean? Like I would have experiences with people, mostly Catholic. Like I remember one time this guy, brought us into this church. It was the cathedral of the city. So every city has like a big cathedral pretty much.
City.
And it's like a super hot tourist area because it's
What? Wait. What
beautiful.
city?
Oh, this was in Lecce, which is in it's near Bari, which is a popular city, but it's like on the
Does
east.
Bari does Bari mean honey by chance?
No, it doesn't.
Because leche means milk, and if that's the land of honey and milk, that would be crazy. But in Spanish,
No, no, no. No, because leche does not mean milk in
oh,
Italian, so.
sorry.
But it's on like the heel of the boot part. This is Lecce. Anyway, so this cathedral is like a super big tourist area, pretty much. And this guy, we ran into him, we start talking to him about religion, and he just like gets so excited. He's like, "Oh my gosh, I need to take you to this church. It's right around the corner." He kept saying that, and we walked for probably like 15 minutes. It's right around the corner, it's right around the corner. I was like, where is he taking us? But we go to the city's cathedral that you have to pay to get into unless you're Italian. And he was like, "Don't worry, I know a guy, I can get you in." So he brought us in, and he's just showing us like mass is happening. You know, people are doing their prayer stuff, and he's just walking around showing us all the cool stuff that they have. And there was like this cross that had like a little sliver of the original cross in it. And he was like, "Look at that's so cool." And I was like, "No way, you know?" And so stuff like that that was just really special to me to like be a part and be like welcomed into that religion and that culture, you know.
Yeah.
That stuff was cool to me. Even though, we never saw him again. We didn't teach him, but things like that would happen where I felt the spirit that was in the Catholic Church, you know, even though it's not the restored church, or even though they're missing important pieces, like I could feel the spirit of the church, and also just like the dedication of the actual members of the church. And that was just really special every time I felt that.
Yeah. I think that's crazy because not too many people know what that feels like. I don't know what that feels like to walk into mass and to look at these Catholic relics and to like hear the prayers and like see the clothing and and we wonder why when Roy came back from his mission, he was just like, I don't know how to explain it. Like I just feel so alone. Like I don't know how to explain it. What I just went through. Guys, I just went through something amazing and terrible and awesome and everything. And and when I hear about experiences like that, where I have no idea what that feels like or looks like or sounds like or smells like, um, that those are the things that I think I hold most dear into my heart. Like there's this in down in Payson, Utah, there's this temple called the Krishna Temple. This is a Hindu temple. Roy, did you ever go there?
Nah, I just saw it from a distance. The Great Spacious Building. Is that what you're? I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
Looks like looks like a temple. It looks like a Hindu temple, but we went in there. So I went there to fulfill like I had to go visit some other cultural class or whatever. Like I had to go do that and write a report about it. And I went there and it's interesting like how nostalgic that was because I walked in and just and you could ask Lee about this. There was just a waft of the smell of the furniture, the food, the the animals outside. This smell just wafted into my nose, and then along with seeing all of the murals of Krishna and all these things, it threw me back to Guyana, and I was like, "Whoa, dude! Like this." And Leah was like, "Whoa, what's that smell?" And I'm like, "I never found out what that smell was, but it's here." And somehow it's there's a little capsule of what it smelt like and what it sounded like and what it felt like in Guyana. And I guarantee it's the same thing with that's experience in the cathedral. I
Yeah.
I love being like, oh, that was probably a unique, I don't know. I love that story about the cathedral because I can almost put
Yeah.
myself in it vicariously without knowing
Yeah.
exactly how it was.
Yeah, because you know how what it feels like to have an experience like that. But I just think like, that could have been two different experiences. It could have been A, like, oh my gosh, we have this weird, crazy Italian guy that's like rushing us through this cathedral, and I feel awkward, and I don't like this feeling because it's weird. It's a different church, and I don't like the sound of the prayers, and it's just like everyone's talking in unison. It's just weird and that was a weird experience. Or it's like, wow, like this is what their church is like. This is what they believe in. This is the things that they say in their prayers, and this is how it's similar to my church. And like you can look at it in two different ways, and you can remember it in two different ways.
Yeah, after going in that temple, did you feel like you were more able to understand the Italian people?
Yeah, I think in a way, it's just like, I mean, I don't know if I can't explain how it helped me, but I think in a way it just helped me feel like I belonged there a little bit. Like I wasn't I if I didn't feel like I stuck out like a sore thumb as much as I did at the beginning.
Dude, yeah, I think there's in my mission the at night when we were walking back from places, the only places that were open in Guatemala were the bars, the cantinas, and you're just hearing like Christian Nodal singing, bro, or Bad Bunny or whatever, and it was faint. I couldn't hear it like right next to me, just like a faint music in the background, and you just hear like the and like the traditional Guatemalan music, and it would like bring tears to my eyes by the end of my mission. Like I loved hearing that in the distance. Now I'll literally hear like country music in the distance, just like outside my house. I'll hear someone like a couple blocks down listening to some country song, and I'm like, oh, it's Guatemala. Like it's like that time capsule is like what you're talking about, Kat. And like you were saying, Freddie, in Guatemala, and I know for some reason people mock this a lot, but they do have like they have a culture of drinking coffee. Like they grow like the best coffee in the world's in Guatemala. And they have this stuff called Morcaf. And I think they call it Morcaf because it's Mormon coffee. And it's just like a coffee it's made of corn and it tastes like coffee and it smells kind of like coffee. And dude, I used to drink that every morning. And it wasn't even because I was like, I mean, not every morning. Obviously, I missed mornings, but it's not even because I was like I didn't want to drink coffee. I just wanted to like live a Guatemalan lifestyle, I guess. Wake up in the morning, tomarme un poco de café, like just drink a little coffee and then get out and work. And it was the equivalent, I guess you could say, for me of stepping into that cathedral and seeing like this is Italy. These are the Catholics. And even when they don't practice maybe year round or they don't practice every week, like they're Catholics, bro. It's like it's their that's who they are. It's what they are.
Oh, they're
I love that.
Catholics through and through.
Well, and just to add on all this, people that haven't and I'm not saying that we're like superior because we've tried to be a part of another culture, but I think there is a perspective because we've been plopped into areas of the world where we've bought in. We've been like, no, by the end of this, I want people to be confused. Like I want people to be like, whoa, you speak Spanish or you speak Creole so good. Like where are you from? Like you're white. What are you doing? I wanted that reaction so bad. And so yeah, I would do things like there was a little like a chocolate milk drink that the Guyanese would just drink all the time. So I would do the same thing every morning to feel like I was there, drink that stuff. And people I think it goes over their head until they experience something like that. Because well, as we're talking, people probably are just gonna be like, yeah, so what? Like I don't know what you're saying. And it's like, no, this this was real. Like this was I wasn't there for any
On
other
vacation.
reason. Yeah, I
Yeah.
wasn't there for any other reason than to connect with these people that are foreign to me.
Well,
And
even Decker in Texas, dude, that guy has a Texas hat or Texas shirt or Texas tie, Longhorns, something.
and
Like
I
he,
guarantee he's gonna come home and he's gonna say things, or he's gonna run into people that are from Austin, Texas, and then he's gonna like talk about the neighboring small towns and like the barbecue in a certain area. It's like because he is there not to just hang out. He's there to connect with the foreign people that he's around. I just
yeah.
love that about missions. But
Well, like Bittner, why does Bittner wear cowboy boots?
because he served in Colorado, yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like these, you become. I mean, only in America people get offended by this phrase, but you become Guatemalan or you become Italian and you become Coloradoan, whatever that's called, Texan.
Yeah.
Like you become where you're at. Um, and a big part of that has to do with the language, and I do want to segue into that, Freddie. How was it learning the language?
I think it was about as average as most people, you know. It wasn't I didn't ever
Super
feel like I
hard.
was
Yeah, extremely difficult.
Yeah.
You were lost for 9 months. Is that-
yeah, yeah. What I mean is I don't have anything new to say about the language learning process. Um,
Well, then tell us about the language. What are the beautiful things about Italian? Like, what are things that you're like, oh, that's why they say this, or that's
oh
why
my
they do
gosh.
this?
Oh my gosh. I actually have a note of this in my phone about things that make more sense in Italian. But one thing that I do love about Italian is that um there is an article for every you can't say a noun without the article. And that's not that's the same in Spanish but to an extent, right?
You don't need the
The-
article every time you say it.
yeah,
Yeah. So you
yeah,
need it every time. Like if you're saying my family, you need to say la mia familia, like every time. And so the A is at the end of the article, the possessive, like whatever, and then the noun. So there's like la mia familia, and it just like sounds so beautiful with like the endings all sounding the same, and you have the extra, you know, it's just a lot of fun, and that's why I think it sounds so beautiful.
yeah. The la mia familia. That's cool. That
Yeah.
is pretty cool.
Yeah. But there are some things, and I think this is you guys probably had an experience like this with Spanish, but here's an example. So to say to hope in Italian is sperare, and to say to despair is disperare. So to us, hope and sperare don't sound the same, but despair and disperare sound exactly the same. So it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, despair is just the negative of hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hope
exactly.
hope should be just spare.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, I have spare the this that. I mean, it should be. That's.
yeah.
Well,
And
I think it's in
question,
in Spanish. Esperar is hope, and then desperar is like desperate
despair.
or
Yeah,
despair. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think it's pretty common with the Latin languages, the love languages, but or romance languages, I mean. Love languages are different. But another thing is question, to say question is domanda, but to demand is domandare. So question and demand have like this connection that they don't have in English.
It's like
So it's
question is like just a weak demand because you're not.
yeah,
That's cool,
Uh, you're
yeah,
demanding an answer almost or something.
but it's
yeah,
weak. It's like a respectful demand.
yeah. So it's stuff like that that I would pick up on and be like, wait a minute, this makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's and could you ever tell? I mean, this is more of a you have to really be looking for this sometimes, I think, but could you ever tell that the people acted maybe a certain way because of the language?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, they would use, you know, command form a lot, which I mean, I think we do too, but um, so they were pretty sharp when it came to that kind of stuff. Um, like when they're talking to their kids, like, hurry up, stuff like that. But I guess we do that too. But I don't know, I'd have
Well,
to think about that.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I feel like maybe this is stereotypical, but I feel like in movies, Italian parents are demanding or commanding, of their children and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, the like for example, in Spanish, mano it ends in an O, which would imply maybe masculine, but they call it la mano, which is like a feminine masculine, which gives the
Yeah.
hand. So it gives like a personality to a man and a woman that they're like carrying hands, like they are
Yeah.
hands
No,
together. So
that
things
is
like
the
that.
case for that's the case for almost every body part in Italian. It's like a masculine word, but a feminine article, or a masculine article,
Yeah, but like brazo, el brazo, like arm, that's man. That's a man, like strong, it's
Right.
supposed to it would be like, but it's connected to the hand, la mano. So
Yeah.
I mean, there were things they I think people from America, because we have savior complexes and we think that we do everything perfectly, are gonna look down on Guatemalans, and they act like they treat their women very poorly. And I'm not, in every culture, people treat women poorly, obviously, but there was this beauty that the language brought. I really do think it was the language brought to men and women in Guatemala because of Spanish. And I think it's actually, I mean, it's obviously Latino. It's not just. So there was this beauty in that in Quechua, which I didn't speak Quechua a lot. It was like the dialect there, but they say masalachol to say how are you, but they're just asking, is your heart sweet?
Hmm.
So you respond by saying sa, which means sweet. So, if it's not salichol, like if you're not happy, then you say ra, I think, which means spicy or like bitter. So like if you so then the but then the way that their emotions are portrayed are sweet and spicy. Like that's how it's like Jewish people and Christians, we have a very prominent view, or not prominent, we have a very distinct view on money, because the Bible is all about like being saved, someone paying off your debt. If you're a slave, how do you get out of that? And like, like all this stuff, like how money affects that. Anyways, I didn't know if there was something in Italian that jumped out to you there.
Um, I nothing like right off the bat, but I do agree with that. And I mean, not to get scientific, but there is if you've seen the movie Arrival, they talk about the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which I learned about in my English 101 class. That is this theory that your language, no, yeah, your language defines your reality. So I think it's totally true that, the way like that thing of like their two words for how they're feeling is bitter and sweet. And so that's how it's defined to them. So
Yeah.
it changes the way that they like act and the way they perceive that and everything.
Or
So
probably even the way they think about food. I don't know, like things
yeah,
like that.
Yeah,
It-
yeah,
either it's bitter or sweet. you
and
know.
that might perfectly correlate with how people feel, about
yeah,
Yeah.
eating. I don't know.
Well, it's
yeah,
like the whole thing. I mean, we're going on a tangent here, but it's fine. The like Eskimos, and they have like what, 20 different ways to refer to snow.
Yeah.
yeah,
I couldn't even see 20 different, like if I couldn't even, you could put all the snow right next to each other and I wouldn't even, there's no way I would be able to tell the different
Yeah.
the different
yeah,
types of
Like
snow there.
happy snow.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just that thought, like you ever feel something inside of you and you're like, I just don't know how to explain this. Well, it's because the words you have for your emotions were just made up. That's just the best we could do. So you probably do have emotions that you don't have a word for, so they don't really like exist, if that makes sense. But anyway, that
Dude,
is a tangent.
once you start learning the language in your mission, and I don't care if your mission's in Kentucky or California or Italy, right? Once you start learning the language of the people around you, that is when that click happens. I think, at least for me, where you're like, you it's not like it's no longer I want to be part of the culture. You just start like putty, like you start like just molding into the lifestyle that they live, and you start just accepting it as as normal. I mean,
Yeah.
were there any things when you came back that you were like, "Oh, it actually isn't like this," you know? Like
Uh, I know there were things because I remember feeling that. Oh, one thing that mom, she'll tell this story all the time is in Italy, you go to a grocery store, they're tiny. The grocery stores are tiny compared to freaking Walmart. Like the first time I walked into Walmart, I was like, "Oh my." I sent
You
a
got
video
vertigo.
to
Everything was like,
Yeah, yeah. I sent a video to a member from my mission. I was like, "Look how big this store is." And half of their store is pasta, right? And I'm like searching high and low in Walmart and they have like this much of a pasta section. So I'm like filming the whole, I'm like, this is how big this store is, and this is the pasta section. Can you believe that? But I went in Italy, you have these little grocery stores, and you go in the back to the deli, and you can just give them pick a loaf of bread from the bakery, give it to them, and be like, I want like spicy pepperoni and mozzarella on this. And they'll be like, okay. And they'll weigh it for you and give it back to you. It's like $2. Best sandwich of your I'm talking fresh mozzarella. They take the ball out of the dripping water, they cut you slices, and they take this big thing of spicy salami and they cut it on the deli thing and then they put it on your sandwich and they close it up for you on the best bread in the world and then you eat it for like $2.
yeah, I did
So
not.
I come home to Walmart and I'm like, Mom, I bet they probably do this here too because they have bread and they have whatever. They don't. They don't do that at Walmart.
Yeah, the guys back there and they're like, uh, oh, uh,
He's like, we don't. This is not. I know says deli, but like, I'm not gonna make you a sandwich.
I
I'm
need
not
to call
gonna
my
make you a
let me call
sandwich.
my manager.
That's
Oh,
so
that is like
funny.
my actually favorite meal. Like that and pizza is like my favorite. I miss it all the time.
Yeah, bro.
So good.
Well, were there any times in your mission that you can like point back to? And I guess it's gonna go more into story time for you, but that were just uh, like a question of like, why am I here? Or that we're trying, I guess you could say, um, either towards literally your testimony or just your, I don't know. Like, were there any times that you were just there were weeks that all of a sudden turned into years that you were low, I guess you could say? And how did you get out of them? Like, what did you do? What was the answer?
Well, I remember just starting my mission and I remember like the first day or so or day or two, I was like, I'm not like
They all blur
that
together.
homesick. Yeah. But I remember thinking like my homesickness is not like crippling me. Like this is interesting because I'm always homesick. Like even just, sleeping over at my cousin's house, I get homesick. So I was expecting that to be such a big trial at the beginning of my mission, but it wasn't. And I was like, huh, that's great. But then it just never went away. Like that level just like never got better. So it wasn't bad, but it never got better. So it was around like just before a year into my mission, I was like, this is I can't do this anymore. Like this is not fun. And it doesn't go away. Like I just still feel homesick. And like my companion was the STL. She had mentioned something about it to like the mission president and our interviews came around and I was talking to him about it and he was just like talking to me through it and everything. And then he goes, can I offer you some advice? And I was like, well, yeah. And he was just like, Sorella Anderson, this is not about you. And I was like, oh, wow.
Ah, mission presidents for the win every
Yeah.
time,
But
dude.
what's really interesting and that really like confirmed my testimony of him being called of God was my first day in the mission, we were in the mission home and he's doing an interview. Um, he at the end of the interview, he said the same thing. He said, Cheryl Anderson, just remember this is not about you. And I remember thinking like, did I make it sound like I'm like really into myself during that
I
interview? Like
just got
what?
here, bro.
Why did he say that? He doesn't even know me, you know? So then when he said it again for the second time, I was like, okay, he doesn't remember that he said that to me the first time. But that's what I needed to hear, you know? And so I, had this existential crisis where I'm like, wow, I'm like the most selfish person that I know. And, and then and then a little bit later I'm like praying to God like please help. It didn't go away instantly. I'm like, will this go away? Sorry, my phone's ringing. I was like, will this go away? And Heavenly Father was just like, yes, it will. Just it's fine. Like it's okay if you're suffering. Just keep going, okay? It's gonna go away. I promise it's gonna go away. And I was like, okay. So that was a big turning point for me, I think, because it wasn't like it kind of felt hopeless until that point, and it didn't go away after that, but it was like, wow, like he told me it's gonna go away, so I know I'll be fine.
When did it go away?
I think it went away. My homesickness for home went away when I started getting excited to go home. Then it wasn't like thinking about home wasn't like sad. It was like, oh, that's so exciting. Like I'm gonna go home, but I'm also in Italy, so it's like, yay, this is fun. So
I actually hear this a lot more now than I ever did growing up. And I don't, maybe just because nobody wanted to say this to like a 15-year-old, but I hear a lot now like people complaining about mission presidents, like my mission president was a jerk or my mission president wasn't like nice to me and he didn't like take care of me. And it's like, or maybe you were a pansy. Like I don't like I don't know. It's so hard for me. And I know that people do have real stories that are tough, but it's hard for me when like I loved my mission president and my mission president also was like he got on me a lot of times about being humble and ripped into me a couple times and then Jacob, your husband, he told us a story about how his mission no. Oh, his mission president at the same time like humble up, brother.
You, dude.
And then Ket has this story about the 70 like buttoning his top button and Ket could like feel his knuckle like digging into his esophagus, buttoning up that button and kind of like telling him like shape up a little bit. And then your mission president, you're like, I'm having a terrible time. I feel homesick. This is hard for me, maybe even mental health wise. And he just goes like, hey, you're not the main character here. Like this isn't about stop being so conceited,
yeah.
which is such a
This
weird
isn't you
answer.
living your vacation in Italy, okay?
Yeah.
It,
Yes,
yeah,
I love that.
it's like you thought this was gonna be easy?
Easy.
You actually thought that it wouldn't be hard? Do you actually mean like do you actually mean that? You actually think that? You know? Like
Yeah.
snap in. Dude, I heard Captain John DeLynn say one time that they treated missionaries like cattle. And I was just like, cattle? That's like, no, dude. I signed up for this junk and I went through that junk and I came out a better man. And I wasn't freaking cattle. Dude, I
Yeah.
Yeah.
could have gone home anytime. And I know elders and sisters that do because they don't want to hack it. And I didn't want to hack it either, but I did. And that was the point. And you know what who told you that it was you should be selfish? Who told you that? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like go home and
Yeah.
slap in the face or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing, and this is kind of a reoccurring theme that's been coming up while we've been talking, all of us together, like the adversary is going to make things feel like not that big of a deal, and that's probably because they're not that big of a deal. Like me serving my mission in Guatemala from 2018 to 2020, people already don't even remember me over there. But the reason it's a big deal was because I turned it back to Jesus Christ. Like I remembered him.
Yeah.
And you serving in Italy and being homesick, well, like kind of it wasn't that big. Like it's not that big. Like get over yourself, almost, I guess. And then who was it that ended up comforting you and giving you that the homesickness went away? It was Christ.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's probably the epitome of a mission. If you don't turn to Christ for your mission, it it will suck. Like I don't know, it will be not fun. Because you're not, and maybe that's just even life. Like if you don't turn to Christ, what's it for?
Yeah,
What's it worth?
that's life. It's like whoever's telling you to sign off on it's better to be selfish. I don't listen to them, man. Like your responsibility is to turn to Christ in good times and in bad times, and that's hard. Period.
Yeah.
And we you don't have to explain that more. That's just going to be hard, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I will say too is like your attitude is gonna, I mean, it's what we've been saying, your attitude is gonna affect a lot. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that my mission president loved me personally. You know what I mean? But after that experience, I could have easily just like disregarded everything, forgotten it all, and been like, he's crazy, he's mean, like I'm out of here, you know what I mean? And it's the same with the gospel. Like, you have one bad experience, you could just like let go of anything you felt in the past and let go of your testimony and be like, no, I'm out of here. This is not what I signed up for, whatever. But it's about your attitude and like deciding every day that, the gospel is true and deciding every day that my mission president knows what he's talking about and I should listen to him, you know?
Yeah,
Dude, amen to that. Like I don't respecting our elders, even for some reason our elders are like trying to push us away from that. But that like he's a mission president. You agreed to go, you signed a contract. If you don't believe in God, right? Then either way you signed a contract and that's your word. You said you'd go, you said you'd do it. And you're gonna do it and he knows more and just let him lead.
yeah,
Yeah. He's the one that's meeting with like an apostle on a quarterly basis and then further, relaying that information to you.
yeah, yeah. Real quick that just reminded me. Okay, and I want to know from your perspective this because I know Roy felt this and I know I felt it. It took me a little longer to feel this, but the last 6 months on mission, I was like, it felt so good because I was waking up determined to do exactly what I was supposed to do that day. And it was the dopest feeling ever to like wake up, counsel with the Lord, do the Lord's work, and then lie down. The scripture said lie down with the Lord. And when my
Yeah.
head hit that pillow, it was like that was it. I'll see you in the morning. It was like that. This like I'm not done. But the scripture that reminded me when you were talking is a scripture that Timber Harward shared with us, scripture that brought him back to the church is Alma 37:30.
Fire scripture
Alma
is
30
a gangster verse.
says, counsel with the Lord in all thy doings, and he will direct thee for good. Yea, when thou liest down at night, lie down unto the Lord, and that he may watch over you in your sleep. And when thou risest in the morning, let thy heart be full of thanks unto God. And if ye do these things, ye shall be lifted up at the last day. Like there is not a verse um that what's the word I'm looking for? Like puts together the feelings that I felt at the last 6 months of my mission than that verse. And it's a feeling I've been chasing and been able to experience since then, but it's a feeling I've been chasing the way I felt it on the mission ever since I got home because it felt so amazing. But I don't know. Tell us. I want to know last 3 months, last 6 months of your mission. Like, what was different about that, or when did you kind of
Lock in.
lock in, settle in, like you were just down for it?
Well, I think that training was a super awesome opportunity I had towards the end of my mission because I believed every single day that we would find somebody. Like maybe not every day, but looking back, like I don't remember periods of time where I had doubts about, we're not going to find someone today. Like it's not going to happen. And that's after 18 months of literally not finding somebody. You know what I mean? Like we would talk to people that would seem interested and then it would peter out. That was pretty much the majority of my interactions on my mission. You know what I mean? Um, but I don't know how. I really don't understand how, but I just remember the whole time I was like, we're gonna find someone today. Like I know it. And sometimes I didn't act like it, but then when I started training, I was like, okay, I know this, but I have to show her that it's true. Like, we are gonna find someone, and you better not waste your time doing crap because there's people to talk to, there's people to find. You know what I mean? And I know that not everyone gets an opportunity in the mission to train or be in leadership, but I fortunately did.
I didn't get
I
to train.
fortunately had the opportunity to train and be an STL like at the pretty much very end of my mission. And that was crazy. That was so cool. Being in a council with the mission president where he's not teaching you, he's counseling with you. And he's like, "What are you seeing? How are things going? What do we need to do?" And then taking that to my zone, I was like, "Okay, guys, we need to do this better." And then in MLC, I'm sitting there like, oh my gosh, like I suck. I have to figure my life out on the way back on the train ride back to my area because I have not been doing this, you know? So it was stuff like that that really like just that's what lit the fire under me is because and the numbers were like going up. It's not about numbers, it's about souls and it's about testimonies, but the data was there and it started going up and I was like, this is working. Like we cannot lose this. And so I just remember at the end it was like this urgency to like, don't let it die. Do not let it die. Don't get trunky. Don't let people see that you doubt. You know what I mean? And that's kind of what and I didn't. Like I really felt every day like we're gonna find someone today. Even though I mean I didn't have any baptisms on my mission. I had one guy that I taught got baptized. So
That's a
go
Baptist.
him.
No,
That's a Baptist right there.
that's freaking awesome. Dude, I hope in the millennium we get to just go serve missions, bro.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
the end of the world, no more power, no nothing. And the prophets of God are just like, go and bring people to Zion, for it is here which we will establish the eternities. And we just get to go.
Yeah.
Like that, I would love that, dude. That would be like, especially with my siblings. I think it'd be fun to serve a mission with you guys. Is that allowed? Can we do like can we do old folks missions
Family?
like when we're all old and go to the
Family
freaking I don't
missions?
care.
I
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know.
Can
I don't know why the church doesn't make it a career and start making
yeah, do like the
people like
army.
us going back to Venezuela or something and like
Okay, you have to go on tour, dude. You're like, all
yeah,
right.
yeah, we're getting deployed to like Venezuela, recovering like a couple people, in 6 months or something.
Dude, I wish I could. I have so many dreams of that.
Same.
Like, like that they call and they're like, "Hey, we gotta have some missionaries from Guatemala to go back to Guatemala and reestablish the area for new missionaries coming in." And your name came up, and I have to go. And it's just like, oh yeah! Like I think I'm so excited. I'm just
Yeah,
pumped.
I'm like, let me call my brother, bro. Like,
Yeah, let me. Hey, can Kat come with me? They're like, sure. We literally need anyone. So yes, like, oh man, I love that, Freddie. Do you have any the reason we wanted to do this a lot, I mean, it's fun to if it's fun if people see these videos, but we do want it to be something that our posterity can watch. You know, if I have a daughter that wants to go on a mission eventually, I think it'd be cool for her to go watch Aunt Freddie talk about her mission in Italy. Is there any, even maybe even for your own daughter, or son, is there any like statements of encouragement or preparatory things that you would want them to know or tell them?
Um, I think what we were talking about at the beginning is a really big one. And I do have a story about that. I had this experience of like you guys are telling stories about your mission, my friends are telling stories about their mission. I'm like, that sounds sick, right? And then I'm going through my mundane mission and I'm like, wait a minute. And then I'm on the phone with you guys like for P Day and I'm telling you stories about my week and I'm like, wait, that sounds really cool. That sounds cooler than it felt. And I didn't like change it. It just sounds cooler than it felt, you know? And so I realized like, okay, this is special only if you make it special, you know? And, these spiritual promptings that you're getting are impactful if you make them impactful. Like you have to, it's a thing that you have to actually consciously do, you know? And in one of my areas, there was, um, there was, the ward was split between Italians and Americans because there's a military base. And one of the American kids was going on a mission. And he got called to like Minnesota or Montana or something. And this kid was one of those kids that like is super romantic about life. You know what I mean? His farewell talk was like so poetic and so beautiful. And this might sound bad of me actually now that I'm saying it out loud, but I felt like a prompting, like you need to tell him the experience that you've had with that whole idea of like making things special for yourself. And you need to tell him that the adversary is going to try so hard to get him to feel like his mission isn't what he wanted it to be or what, you know. So I went up to this kid and I told him that, and I was like, and I didn't know him very well, but I was like, just remember, you're going to get out there and it's going to feel very normal. And it's going to feel like it's not special. It's going to feel like you're just a person and you're not really doing anything important because that's what the adversary wants, you know. But don't fall for it. Like let it be big. Let it be important because it's a big work and nothing is going to change that pretty much. So that is one big thing that I would say.
I love that. Yeah, your life, and I mean, this is my belief, but your life is irrelevant until you include Jesus Christ in it. Until you include Jesus Christ, it's irrelevant. And I'm not saying that like mentally, I'm saying there is a law in the universe that once you start including God in your life, that's when it becomes relevant to the universe. That's when it
Yeah.
becomes that's when it becomes significant, even maybe even to yourself. That's when it's really gonna kick in. I love that
Yeah. That's when you
because it's
become,
Jesus.
yeah, that's when you become an agent for good instead of something that's just being acted upon. That's
Yeah.
when you realize through Christ and because of him, I'm going to do what I can do. And it sounds cheesy, but it's like, no, it, I'm going to do everything that I could do because I have a relationship with Christ. And
Yeah.
the mundaneness at the end of my mission, I didn't have a mundane day. It was never mundane because I finally realized all of my time is is with a purpose. I spending all of my time with purpose.
It's important to him. All of your time is important to
Yeah.
Christ. And he doesn't think it's mundane. He doesn't think it's a joke. I mean, it's so important to him, which is why it gives you that it gives you that sense of importance and peace. And it's like a humble pride. I don't know how to explain it. It's like the less I am, the more significant what I do is. I don't know
Yeah,
if
well,
that makes
it's
sense.
like that phrase that the more you know, the more you come to know, the more you come to know you know nothing or something, you know.
Yes, the more you learn, the more you come to know, the more you realize you know nothing. And it's another great trait of the goat, of Jesus Christ, of our Lord and Savior. And I think we're gonna probably end on that unless you guys have something else.
I got nothing.
Um,
Awesome. Oh,
I
Freddie,
do
go ahead.
actually have something to say
Yeah, 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 yeah.
because I noticed personally that this like has spread even to after my mission of like the adversaries trying to convince me that it wasn't what it was. You know what I mean? And I think the important lesson that I would like to express is that you cannot live your life passively. It has to be intentional. And when I came home, and I think, Kat, you remember, we were at your house one time and everyone was talking about their missions, and then I chimed in and it was like super depressing what I said. And it sounded like I had the worst mission and like I didn't baptize anyone and it was just so hard, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And that like started to just like infect every memory of my mission. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I realized what was happening that I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't want that. And I'm going to choose to remember the good stuff and remember how awesome it was. And so I just think that in life, in general, when living the gospel, just be intentional, be actively pursuing Jesus Christ and actively making him a part of your life, or else before you know it, things are going to creep in and you're going to be worse off. So,
Amen, sister. Amen. And in the end, once again, we come to the same conclusion as we do every single podcast. He's the GOAT, baby. He's the GOAT.
yup.
Awesome. Well, tune in next time. I don't know who we're going to have next time, but tune in.